We're inflating something for something.
Greetings and blessings,
Thank you.
fellow humans.
I was about to say, that sounds like something that a non-human would say.
What are you implying? Okay,
But you're not.
so I have a few books over here. We might look at some of them. I did not make a source sheet this week, but thanks everybody for coming. And the topic, it's officially Parshas Kedoshim this week. It's actually a double Parsha, Acharei Mos and Kedoshim. And we're going to focus on part of Parshas Kedoshim, or more specifically one verse, which is probably one of the most famous, maybe the most famous verses in the entire 5 books of Moses. And I'm referring to, good, that's a good guess.
Is it Be'ahata?
Oh, Ve'ahavta l're'acha kamoicha. Love your neighbor as yourself. So that's what we're going to explore and discuss just a little bit tonight. But first, we have to understand a little bit. And by the way, the majority of this class is going to be based on chapter 32 in the book of Tanya, which is the first book of Hasidic thought, or I should say the first book from Chabad of Hasidic thought. And it's studied many, many places. It's not just a Chabad thing that people study. I've met a lot of people that study Tanya. In fact, I went for a swim this afternoon and at the Y on 108th, and usually I just drive there.
Why not?
Exactly, that's what I was thinking. But I didn't drive there today because Zippa was out, she had the car. So I actually just took an Uber over there, and then I was going to Uber back because I wanted to be able to catch Mincha in the afternoon too. So I go out of the Y and I pull up on my phone the Uber, and it was more expensive now. I don't need to take 2 Ubers. This is ridiculous. I'll just walk home.
Start biking.
Right, I'm going to start biking at some point soon. But I'm just going to walk home, which I've done. I walk home from the Y. It's like 1.3 miles. It's not that far. And I figured no big deal. Okay, I'll miss that mincha, but I'll figure it out later. I just didn't want to pay for 2 Ubers. It didn't make sense. And it's a nice walk. It was a nice day. I'll make a phone call. I'll listen to something on my phone, class or something like that. So I started walking, and then I said, "Hey, Sam, what's up?" I saw my friend Sam. And I'm like, are you going back to Kew Gardens Hills? And he said, yes. And I said, okay. Can I catch a ride? So I did. Why am I telling you this extremely boring story? I don't know, other than to say that Sam and I spoke about Tanya. He's not a Chabad guy, but he likes Tanya as well. So it's a book for anybody who would like to explore and think about lots of Jewish ideas. So, yeah, like Sam himself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sam.
Or also known as Shmuel Halevi. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is the mitzvah of Ahavas Yisrael, of loving your fellow Jew, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, as Rabbi Akiva famously said. That's the entire Torah. That's Klal Gadol b'Torah, rather. That is a general, massive principle in the whole Torah. And as Hillel the elder famously said to the potential convert, the guy, a non-Jewish guy, wanted to convert to Judaism. I think the story is well known. He went over to Shammai, one of the big sages, and he said, "Hey, Rabbi, I'm kind of pressed for time. Can you teach me the whole Torah on 1 foot while I'm standing on 1 foot balancing?" Shammai was like, "Get out of here." And he didn't have patience for him for whatever reason. Then he went to Hillel, another one of the greatest, the heavy hitters. And he said, "Hey, Rabbi, can you teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on 1 foot?" And Hillel said, "Sure, no problem. Whatever is hateful to you, don't do to someone else." And the rest is commentary. Now go learn the commentary. So we're going to talk about the commentary a little bit today. So the story is told, there was a great rabbi, I think he lived in the 1700s, I want to say, named Rabbi Akiva Eger. Super famous, major Torah scholar. In fact, if you open up a page of the Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law, as I have right here, in fact, you'll find his commentary. There it is. There's the commentary of Rabbi Akiva Eger on the actual page of the Shulchan Aruch. He also has in many Gemara, the Gemara also on the actual page of the Gemara, some of his notes on the Gemara. So he's one of the heavy hitters. So he was not from Hasidic stock. but his grandson, whose name was Rabbi Label Eger, who was a great Torah scholar in his own right, he became attracted to and interested in the Hasidic lifestyle, the Hasidic teachings, and the Hasidic approach, and he was drawn to it, and he became a Chassid. He became a devoted disciple of the Kotzker Rebbe, I believe, was one of the great Rebbes, the Kotzker Rebbe. I have a book in English in my house, a great book with some of his sayings. He was known for being very, very sharp, like cutting insight and very sharp. He didn't mince words, put it that way. So anyway, this sort of Label Eger, a great Torah scholar in his own right, had been almost abducted. That's kind of the way his family felt, had been almost abducted by the Hasidic sect. They thought maybe it's like a cult, like who are these people, what's going on over there? And they weren't really sure. So they sent someone to go find out, to go investigate, like what was Label up to? What was he doing? Well, what was he sucked into? Is it a cult? What's going on over here? So they sent someone, and he arrives in Kotsk, and he says, I'm here to see the great Torah scholar, the brilliant genius, the outstanding individual, Reb Label. And they're like, who? So he repeated the great honorific titles, Rav, Hagoin, the great genius, and so on and so forth. And they said, who? We don't know who that person is. So finally he said, his name's Label Eger. Oh yeah, we know who he is. Yeah, he's in shul right now. Well, come with me, I'll show you the way. So this guy this person from his family had come, and the messenger, and they bring him to shul, and as he walks into shul, he sees Label sitting there, same clothing as everyone else, not at a seat of respect, just at the table with everyone else, and looking like one of the guys, so to speak. No distinctions that he was such a great sage, a great rabbi. And at that moment, an ordinary Jew, based on appearances, also walked into the shul. He was dressed in ragged clothing. His clothing were torn. And when that Jew walked in, everybody there stood and rose to greet this person who just walked. Not for Label, but for this other Jew in the tattered, torn clothing, they rose to greet him. So the visitor says, oh, who's that? Is he a great Torah scholar, a scholar of repute? Him? No, he can barely read a Mishnah. They said, oh, well, it must be from a great family then? No, his father is just a regular laborer, regular worker, nothing unusual. So probably he's a very wealthy family then, right? That's what's left. He must be very wealthy. They said, wealthy? Look at his clothes. Does he look wealthy to you? So the traveler asked, well, then why giving him such honor? Why are you standing for him? Usually that's reserved for Torah scholars, for rabbis. Like I pray actually here in a Sephardic shul in the morning. When the rabbi walks in, everybody stands up. The way it is. Supposed to rise for a Torah scholar out of respect, out of reverence. So I said, well, then why you rise for him? Why are you giving him such great honor? Oh, why do we give him such honor? He's very humble. That's why we give him such honor. He's so humble. That was the end of the story. This traveler went back to his town to report to the Eger family what he had discovered over there with Label and who had been taken by. So he recounted the story of meeting this very simple man in tattered clothing, not a Torah scholar, not from a distinguished family, not a wealthy family, none of that stuff. And they honored him because they said he was so humble. So as he recounted the story, the relatives, or Label's relatives, laughed. Like, one second. Let me get this straight. He's not learned. He's not a Torah scholar. He's not from a great family. He's not wealthy. Why shouldn't he be humble? Of course he's humble. This response, as sometimes responses do, made its way back to the town of Kotsk, where the Chassidim there heard about that. Well, if he's not rich, he's not a Torah scholar, he's not from a great family, so why should he not be humble? I mean, you got nothing to be arrogant about, right? And they said, no. It's exactly the opposite. If he's not learned, and he's not wealthy, and he's not from a great family, then the fact that he's humble is truly something special. That's truly remarkable. He retains his humility. So I want to tell that story. I did tell that. Not I want to tell that story. I did tell that story as an introduction to the class on Ahavas Yisrael, loving your neighbor as yourself. Because there's something to be said for when people can sit around the table and there should be no distinctions between people based on whether they're a Torah scholar or not, whether they're wealthy or not, or whether they're from a distinguished family or not. Because those are all accomplishments and descriptions of the person. But
What else should
really,
you base judgment?
good. What else should we base it on? So that's exactly the problem. Is that when we can only offer an evaluation of accomplishments. We could say so-and-so is more accomplished than the other guy. We could make that evaluation. Maybe we're right, maybe we're wrong, but we could make such an evaluation. We could say so-and-so is a bigger Torah scholar than so-and-so. We could say that. So-and-so is wealthier than so-and-so. All these things are evaluations we can make. So if we base our worldview on accomplishments, on descriptions, there will always be a judgment call. There will always be a hierarchy of some sort, and there will never be true equality, and there will never be true love between people. So what should we base it on? Answer.
What was that other statement you just made?
Which part?
I feel like you just slipped like love in there.
I did.
And like,
Because
what are you
Ahavas is
talking
about love. By the way, chapter 32. 32 spells Lev, the heart. It's the heart of Tanya. Yeah, because if we base our relationship with other people on externalities, like for example, this is silly, but for example,
You never truly know some. Like, what are you trying to say?
fine,
You can't merge minds.
fine,
Not yet.
not yet. We're working Elon Musk, or maybe it's Mark Zuckerberg, we're working on it.
The robots, lizard man.
May God bless them that they don't achieve their goals with AI. What you see some interview that Mark Zuckerberg says, everyone, we need more friends. So let's create fake friends because that'll solve the problem. Let's create AI friends because that's going to help.
It's really real anyway.
You're real. I'm real. Torah is real. The Torah we're studying is real. The camaraderie that we have when we sit around the table on Tuesday nights is real. The Torah we study is real. The friendships that we craft are real. But if I'm going to make a silly lip, not silly, but some people, they right away are taken by a person's physical appearance. So some person might meet another individual and be like, I don't like him. Why not? He's got a big nose. Sounds silly, but nobody has to volunteer that if they've ever done that. But people do that. People literally judge other people solely based on their physical appearance. It's a thing. It's not a good thing, but it's a thing. So if we're going to base someone based on their nose,
I feel like you're making a strong man right now. I'm not talking about appearances, we're talking about accomplishments. We're talking about like personality and how that manifests in the real world.
okay, good, fine. You're right. You're right. I don't disagree with that.
Right?
I was bringing it to an extreme because indeed people do craft worldviews based on external appearances. Now,
That's all we have.
oh, so hopefully tonight we're going to
And maybe our
suggest.
actions can suggest like personality traits, but like
So hopefully,
essence of people with the neshama, it's not really attainable by us. It's like what we need.
What's that quote from Batman?
isn't it? I'm Batman. Yeah.
No, not
Is that
that
it?
one. It's actually
wouldn't
a
know.
really
Is it?
profound one that I love. It's like we are our actions,
Do you believe that?
not necessarily accomplishments, but what you're saying is like,
I don't believe
Oh,
we are actually, but it's the best
we
thing we
don't-
got.
oh, like you can never know someone's true self because their true self might not be reflected in their actions, but your actions are what expresses you as a human being. It doesn't matter if you like, oh, I wanted to help that person, but I didn't. Oh, but you're still a good person. Not like to whether you help them or not.
It's not what you've done, it's what you do with what you've done for others.
That's not the quote.
No, it's.
A good quote anyway.
No,
I
it's
think there's maybe two perspectives to look at it. It's like there's a view of yourself and others' view of you. And for the first one, of course, your actions don't really reflect who you are, but for others, they don't have anything else.
So maybe tonight we're going to suggest that maybe there are other ways to look at things. Now, really, at the end of the day, we are so obsessed with physical and the material. Now, we're not all, but nobody here is judging people based on their nose, For sure not. And none of us are pursuing having a nice nose, right? But we pursue other things that really are tied to the physical, like honor, money, respect, influence, wealth, power. We pursue things that are often connected, really, that are either physical themselves or manifestations of some type of physical drive or direction. But Tanya is really a book of spirituality, the spirit. So we're going to suggest, we're going to get to Jesse's quote in a moment.
I got it.
Good, we're going to hear in a second. We're going to suggest tonight that there actually is something that we can utilize that's deeper than a person's accomplishments, physical or otherwise.
And I wasn't denying that exists. It's just,
I know you weren't.
I don't think it's attainable to
Right.
perceive.
So all I'm saying is that we're going to suggest tonight
Okay.
that maybe it is attainable. We're going to put it on the table, and it'll be for you to evaluate and decide what you think about it. Jesse, what do you want to say? What does Batman want to say?
The quote, well, actually, Batman got it from his,
Which Batman
Got it
by the
from
way?
me? No.
no, his love interest in the movie. But it's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines you.
Say it in the voice now.
I don't think that means that, you
Okay.
know, it's not necessarily about accomplishments. It's like, oh, I wanted to be there for you. Okay, but you weren't.
Right,
Doesn't
exactly.
matter-
It's like, what are you gonna
doesn't matter
do?
that You wanted to.
Right.
It's whether you were there or not.
Maybe in a different part of the metaverse.
So
for that
like,
matter.
I don't know, I just, about what you were saying about, we can never know who someone is underneath.
Let's
Well,
take a
we
look.
can, because it's, you know, their actions.
There's only so much you can know.
Their actions define them.
To other people, I think, as the caveat is for.
You ever did something that afterwards was like, oh man, that's not me. You ever
Yeah, but like,
Okay.
the other, what?
did- Maybe other people did too.
What?
Did something that doesn't define them.
I'm sure people do it all the time,
Good.
and that's
Yeah,
very relevant for
every
themselves
action.
to know, but for other people. That's, it is what it is. Like, it's
Let's
very
come back to
obvious.
this. You're not wrong, but let's come back to this. I want to start first of all with a verse in this week's Torah portion. It says, "Lo sisna es ochicho bilvavecha," which means don't hate your brother in your heart. Then, by the way, it continues and says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Now, let's take a look in the Rambam, Maimonides, Hilchos Deos, chapter 6, halacha 5. It says, "Kol hasoynei echad misro beliboy." Interesting. Whoever hates a fellow Jew in his heart,
Is it a qualitative or quantitative?
oiver beloy saseh. This is a transgression. They've transgressed a negative precept in the Torah. How do we know what's the source? Shenemar, as the verse says in our parsha, "Lo sisnas achicha bilvavecha." Do not hate your brother. Where? Don't hate him in your heart. However, there's no lashes for violating this precept, this negative precept. Normally, if a person violates, not nowadays, but in the good old days, when we had a court of law, right? If a person would violate a negative precept, they would get received lashes for
Or
it.
you can't prove it.
Fine. Listen what the Rambam says. "Ve'ein loikin alav zeh." You don't get lashes. Why? Maybe it's similar to what you're saying, but v'she'ein by ma'aseh, because you didn't actually do anything. There's no deed
It's
involved.
a thought crime.
It's a thought crime. That's correct.
Oh, there, right there in the chat.
Now, what if you, it reminds you, once the kid during recess comes over, Rebbe, comes over running to the recess Rebbe. You know, that's the way it works in yeshivas. There's the Rebbe, then there's the recess Rebbe. The recess Rebbe never knows what's going on. Okay, so the kid comes running over, Rebbe, Chaim wanted to hit me. The Rebbe says, huh? Chaim wanted to hit me. He says, listen, Yankov, Chaim wanted to hit you?
Like kind of threat.
He asked little Yankel, what are you? You're a prophet? What do you mean he wanted to hit you? How do you know he wanted to hit you? So Yankel says, because he did. Because he hit me. That's how I know he wanted to hit me. He wanted to hit me, then he did hit me. But anyway, what happens if you don't hate another person, but you go and you hit them? Did you violate the commandment of not hating them? So says the Rambam, actually, that no, if you hit someone, or you insult them, even though you're not allowed to do that. But that's not a violation of this prohibition of not hating him. So you can hit him all day, insult him all day. You didn't violate the mitzvah of not hating him. You can't do it anyway. It's a separate issue. Fine. That's the Rambam over here writes. Now, That's one thing I want to say. Now, what else did I want to say? Oh, the Gemara says, maybe we may or may not get to the Shulchan Aruch over here, I don't know. The Gemara says in Masechta Pesachim, quoting a verse which happens to be my Bar Mitzvah Parsha, it says, Ki sir'a chamor soina'acha roivet tachas ma'soi. Exodus chapter 23, verse 5. If you see the donkey of someone who you hate lying under its load, what should you do for the donkey? Help that donkey unburden its load. 1 second, asks the Gemara. Say that again. The verse says, if you see kisira chamor soina'acha, you see the donkey of the person who you hate or who hates you. Whoa, 1 second, says the Gemara. I thought you're not allowed to hate anybody. So the Gemara says, is it permitted to hate a fellow Jew? What is the Torah talking about? You see the donkey belonging to the guy you hate. Well, you're not allowed to hate anybody. There's nobody that you hate. Who could you hate? V'hoksi, does it not say, you shall not hate your brother in your heart? This parsha, you're not allowed to hate someone. So the Gemara answers, okay, listen to this. Ella, what it's talking about is, it's in a case where there are witnesses that this guy did a certain sin. And in that case, and in that case, not only do you hate him, but everyone hates him because he's a sinner. So everyone hates him. And the Torah says, I'm sorry, skip. And the verse says, your brother, meaning it's in a singular. So if it's many people hate him, then you're allowed to. What it says, many people, then you're allowed to.
What does that mean?
That's a good question.
What's the qualitative?
Let's talk about it a little bit.
Who said that?
The Gemara.
They said, oh, if lots of people hate them,
Don't say anything.
then it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, everyone hates the Jews, well, so it's okay.
I like that. It's good. It's good.
Yes.
Apparently the Gentiles don't have a mitzvah not to hate. Okay. Let's now, well, let me go. I said I wasn't going to look at the Shulchan Aruch necessarily, but let's take a look. This is in the Shulchan Aruch Hilchos Masav and Maton, which are laws of basically how to conduct your business. Siman Kuf Nun Vav in the Shulchan Aruch. And we're going to read the Magen Avram, who's the commentary over here. He says as follows, Mitzvah kol odem levas kol echad misro kegufoy. Look at that. It is a mitzvah incumbent upon each and every one of us to love every other Jew. To what extent? To what extent? Kigufo. The way you love yourself as your own body.
It's a very big caveat.
Shenemar, v'yohavta l'recha kamoicha. Love your neighbor as yourself.
It's a really big caveat.
However, we're going to get to it. Says the Magen Avraham, Davka re'acha b'tevim. What does it mean, love your fellow? What is re'acha? They translate sometimes as your neighbor, your fellow. So he says it means if he's on the same spiritual level as you. And then you can assume that if you rebuked him and you told him, hey, you shouldn't do what you're doing, he'll listen to you because you guys are like buddies and you're on the same spiritual level. But says the Magen Avraham, Aval Adam Rasha, but a wicked person, a person who sins, who is not willing to or not able to listen to you and receive your words of rebuke, mitzvah l'sanoi. So it's a mitzvah to hate him, as it says in the Gemara that we just read in Masechta Pesachim.
What does that mean, receive?
Now, you asked about Tosfos. Tosfos over there says, nevertheless, even though the Gemara says it's a mitzvah to hate the person, nevertheless, says Tosfos, it's also a mitzvah to try to work with him a little bit to tone down his evil inclination, his yetzer. So you shouldn't really come to truly hate the guy. Tone him down a bit. But let's now, with that in mind, let's take a look. I'm going to put this.
Gemara said it though.
To understand what the Gemara means. Gemara says a lot of things. We have to understand what they mean.
Should try to.
Let's take a look in the Tanya. Let's take a look in the Tanya. You could follow along if you like, or you could just listen. Either way, we're in chapter 32, the second half at the bottom on page Mem Aleph. This that it says in the Gemara, that if you see your friend sinning, you see a person on the same spiritual level as you sinning, it's a mitzvah to hate him. And not only that, guys, newsflash, I'm sorry to say this, but not only is it a mitzvah to hate him, but the Gemara says later that in fact, you have to go tell on him. If the tattletale, tell his rabbi, hey, you know what he did? You should also hate him. Now, the simple reason for this, don't get too upset and storm out of here, okay? You have to tell his rabbi also.
But the rabbi's a different spiritual level.
Oh, so why are you telling the rabbi? Good. Why are you telling the rabbi?
Educate him better, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly
really?
right. Yeah. If you're the rabbi, no, you should be aware of what he's
But
doing.
should the rabbi be hating him, or he should just be educated?
You should tell the rabbi to hate him too, but the rabbi is going to hopefully say, now I'm aware. Thanks for telling me. Now I know what this person is dealing with, what their struggles are, what their challenges are. Hopefully, can help him. Now, the Tanya explains, as we saw in the Magen Avraham also, by the way, that when it says to hate him, it's referring to someone that's on a similar spiritual level as you, and you further did the best of your efforts to fulfill another verse in this week's parsha, which says to rebuke him. Rebuke doesn't mean come punch him in the face. There's a Hasidic saying that says before you rebuke someone, you should cut your fingernails. You don't have to dig into someone. Rebuke is not meant to be harsh. Cut your fingernails. It's okay. Rebuke is not screaming at the person. It's not insulting them, yelling at them, pushing them up against the wall and telling them to better change their ways. Rebuke means to approach them, hopefully in a way that they will actually be open to listening, open to thinking and contemplating. Now, if you are to rebuke the person, rebuke your fellow, and if in such a case, nevertheless, he still continues, he or she continues their nefarious, evil, sinning ways, then, like it says in Sefer Charedim, then you have to hate him. Don't worry, we're not done. Please don't get angry and storm out of here. Chabad rabbi, so you have to hate Jews. I didn't say that. You have to hate a person. They're on a similar spiritual level. You did everything you can to rebuke them. They still don't care. They're like, feh, they don't listen. Mitzvah to hate the person. We're going to come back to that. But someone who's not on your same spiritual level, you don't have a closeness, you don't have a camaraderie with him.
What is a spiritual level?
What is a spiritual level?
Yes. And then.
A similar place religiously for
So
the sake of simplicity.
is religion.
It's not what I mean. No,
You said similar place religiously.
because you asked me to define the spiritual level, so I gave you a definition.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's religion. It's not religion per se necessarily. What do you think it means?
I don't know.
You're asking. That's what you're asking.
That is what I'm asking. Similar place
Anybody? Can
religiously.
anybody help me here? What is a spiritual level? What does it mean to be in the same spiritual levels? Not the same, but similar spiritual level as someone else.
Maybe like similar level of connection to God.
How can you measure them?
Similar lifestyle
Like, I feel
religiously.
like you can't say it's based on their actions either, because you could have someone who just goes through the actions, but they're not connected at all.
That's right. So I think the only way to know is to have close friends.
But then obviously you're not going to hate your close friends. So who does this really put? So who does this apply to then? It's
If
really
your
like,
close friend is having an issue, I'm just telling you what it says here in the sources. I'm not making this stuff up.
right. I'm just trying to.
If he's your close friend who you can talk to face to face, mano y mano, and he's sinning in some way, and you rebuke him gently, kindly, sweetly from the heart, and he doesn't listen, then you have to hate him.
Yeah.
We're not done, by the way, but
Quoting quotes, there was one that's like, you're forced to view anyone as human if you spend enough time with them. And
Okay.
it's like, so you're not really gonna hate people that you spend a lot of time with. You're really gonna hate people you don't know that much, or maybe you know too well.
Right. Exactly. It goes both ways.
Right.
So, however, if the person is not in your social circle, if you will, not in your realm of spirituality, then he says, then you should emulate, you should follow the statement of Hillel the elder, to emulate and count yourself amongst the students of Aaron a Kohen, Aaron the high priest. What did he do? Ohev Shalom, Ohev es Abrius Mekorban LaTorah. Love peace, love creatures, and bring them close to the Torah. So you gotta love them. Fine. Let's skip a little bit for the sake of time over here because it's running a bit late. Not late yet, but now, well, no, I can't skip that part. Now, Aaron Cohen said, Ohev es habrios, love creatures, not people. He didn't say to love people, love creatures. So one of the explanations is because he's trying to tell you that even a person who is sunk so low that the only thing positive that you can find to say about them is that they're a creature, they're alive.
It's connected to your hello fellow humans.
Not intentionally.
It is now.
Now it is. Thank you. Even such a person you have to love. Even such a person that there's nothing. And I heard a crazy story I have to tell you right now. There's a Chabad rabbi in Miami who passed away Shabbos. Sholem Ber Lipsker. In the world of Chabad, he's a legend. And he built an unbelievable shul down in Miami over there. Crazy what he built over there. Unbelievable. He did amazing things, and including he started an organization called the Aleph Institute. The Aleph Institute, you heard of it, brings Judaism to prisoners, to people in prison. So I saw a recording yesterday of him telling a story about a phone call that he received from a man in jail. And the man said, I need your help. Okay, we'll work it out. What do you need? What do you need exactly? So I need you to get my wife a job. I'm in jail and ain't nothing I can do. My wife is can't get work, can't pay the bills, and needs a job. Can you please help her? So he says, Rabbi Lipsker says, okay, I'll do what I can. What's the number? Takes the phone number, calls this woman. Says, hi, I got your number, etc., etc. So I'm not going to tell the story as well. He's an excellent storyteller, and I'm probably going to forget some of the details, but I'll tell you the nikuda, the point. She starts talking to this woman. She's a broken person, a broken individual. There's a couple kids. There's no money to pay the rent. The landlord wants 3 months rent from me that I don't have. So Rabbi Lipsker right away says, no problem. What's the landlord's name? What's his phone number, his address? I'll send him the 3 months taken care of. And by the way, says, don't think that I'm not sending it to you because I don't trust you. That's not why. I'm sending it to the landlord directly, so he should know it came from someone else. So your landlord should know that you have people that care about you. So he took care of the rent. And I think, if I recall correctly, the story was a short time later. In the same conversation, she had told him kind of on her great descent and her challenges and her problems, her husband's in jail, et cetera, et cetera. And that one day she had nothing, didn't have money for food. Her kids are asking her, like she would go around at night to the pizza shops and go in the garbage, the dumpsters, to find food for her kids. Kids would say, like, mommy, like, can't we eat something normal like everybody else? She had no money. So she says, there are young ears here listening, so I'll try to say it in a way that it should only be understood to certain people. So I decided to sell myself. People know what that means, I think. So I went out to such and such a bar, Miami, whatever it was, et cetera, and that's what I did. That's what I did. And I got money for that act. And I never used the money. I right away decided that I have to end my life. I can't live with myself. This is what I've come to, this is what I've done. So I went home and I wrote a note to my children. First, I went into the room. I forgot to detail the story. 2 kids. One was a normal, regular kid. The other was sick. Didn't say what that means. Was sick, not well, unhealthy in some capacity. So I went to kiss my older child, 10 years old or so, kissed him on the cheek while he's sleeping, said, you're going to do great. You're smart. You're talented, you're capable. People gonna wanna be with you. Someone's gonna want to adopt you. Someone's gonna take care of you. Then I kissed my younger one on the cheek, and I said, "How? Nobody's gonna want you. You're sickly. You're et cetera, et cetera." So I decided that I would just, I don't know what to do. And she's telling this Rabbi Lipsker the story. So he says to her, he says, right away, I made a ruling, and I told her right away, you are not responsible for what you did. She says, what? I'm not responsible for that action? She says, no. Why not? What do you mean I'm not responsible? I did it. What do you mean I'm not responsible? He says, you were insane. You were out of your mind. You're not responsible. It's as if you didn't do it. They told her. And that was basically the end of it. He paid the rent. That was the end of the conversation. He said, then Rabbi Lipsker continued the story, that a number of years later, he gave a class in the shul in Bell Harbor where he has, and it was a large attendance. He said 100, 200 people, a very large attendance. And after the class, people like to come over to the rabbi sometimes. And, oh, thank you, this, that. They want to tell him their comments, what they thought about it, et cetera, et cetera. So one woman comes over, doesn't know who she doesn't recognize her, says, thank you. He's like, you're welcome. Wants to say, like, who are you? When I never see you. She's gone. He says, Rabbi Lipsker, the way he tells her, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I recognize the voice. It was that woman, that same woman. So some people care for everybody, regardless of their accomplishments or lack thereof. And it's only possible if you don't view a person as their accomplishments or their lack thereof, lack of accomplishments, or the way they look or the way they don't look. It's only possible if you look at the person as a spiritual being who has a soul. Now, how do you know what that soul is? You don't. And it's exactly the point. You don't know how great the person really is at the core. We don't know anything.
Do you know the prisoner dilemma?
Maybe.
So the prisoner dilemma is you have two convicts and you separate them, they get to jail. So the only way the prisoner dilemma works is if neither convict says anything. However, if one of them says something first, then they get off free. But if they both don't say anything, then they both get off free. But if one does, then he gets off and the other person goes to jail. And so, like, I think 9 times out of 10 or almost 100%, someone always says something first because they never know, because they always don't trust the other person, but they both. That's something. So I think like this only works if like everyone has the same kind of mindset of like we don't judge other people, but like
So-
the reality is
so
like,
I
the
can't-
burden is on the person who does the action, I think.
Well, all I know is that I can control how I think and how I view people, and I can share with you this piece of Tanya.
It's the prisoner thing. How do I tell you?
I don't know. But when we view a person as their physical body, or not their physical body, but what comes from that, their honor, their respect, their accomplishments, their intellect, their power, their influence, etc., we'll never really get to the core of who that person is, and we'll never really love that person. We'll just love their accomplishments, or love what they do, or love what they do for me, or love how they make me feel. That's not real, obviously, so that's not real love. Now, so if you come to a person that we described before, he's quote unquote on your spiritual level, whatever exactly that means. He's on your spiritual level. You've rebuked him and he still doesn't listen and he still continues his incorrect ways. So we said it's a mitzvah to hate that person. Let's come back to that. However, mitzvah la'avam gamkein. Just as it's a mitzvah to hate that person, says the Alter Rebbe in Tanya chapter 32, it's also a mitzvah to love them. So we're going to hate the person and we're going to love the person. How do you hate and love the same person? V'shteyan hein emes, both are true. Both are emes, both are true. How so? Sinah, the hatred is mitzad hara shebohem. You don't hate them. You hate the negativity, the evil, the badness within them. It's like hate the action, not the person who did the action. So you hate the evil, the negativity within them, But ve'ha'ava, and you love mitzad bechinas ha'tova gonu shebahem, and you love the hidden good within them, like that prisoner, like that woman, who somehow Rabbi Lipsker was able to see through what she had done. It's not just a sin; it's how low does a person have to sink to do that? Can you imagine a person who's sunk to such a level? But Rabbi Lipsker was somehow able to cut through that and see the hidden good within. What is the hidden good, says the Alter Rebbe? That is the spark of God within them, the spark of divinity, of sanctity within them, that is what's giving them life. So you hate the evil within, you hate what they did, and you love them for who they are. Holiness, godliness within, that's what you love. And one more step. Furthermore, and awaken some rachmanus, some good old-fashioned Yiddish rachmanus, compassion for the person. Like certainly as Rabbi Lipsker must have felt for that woman who called him. A rachmanus, compassion for such a person to be in such a life place. So call up some rachamim, some compassion for the person, by recognizing that the godliness, the holiness that they have is in golus, is in exile. It's as if they don't have it. It's banished almost. And then the rachmanos that you'll feel for the person, the compassion will neutralize, will knock out any hatred that you may have, that you're supposed to have, will knock away the hatred, and furthermore, and will further awaken the feeling of love. So we start with hatred. Then we say, well, one second, you gotta have love too. And then you gotta bring about compassion. The compassion gets rid of the hatred. So what are you left with? Ava, just love. You're left with just love for the other person. And that's the goal. The goal is to begin in our own lives, start with ourselves, looking past the material, looking past the physical, looking past the person's accomplishments, looking past the person's failures, looking past the way they look, looking past the way their nose is too big. It sounds so silly because it's all like that. We could strive to reach a place where anything we see in another person, any negative trait or whatever it may be, and not to deny it, it's the negative trait. But it's like having a big nose. So what? Okay, that's who you are. You're your big nose? I hope not. So also, if the person has done something else in their life, I can say that's like a big nose. That's not who you are. There's something deeper. There's someone deeper that's there. And that's what I need to focus on. Not to deny the reality. I'm not saying that, but to focus on the spirit, to demand of ourselves to be people of the spirit, people of the soul, and then to look at other people in that way as well. Any comments, thoughts, questions? Okay, we didn't answer all the questions that were posed this evening. I was just hoping to give some food for thought. And thanks for coming, everybody, to be